scary stories.
Okay, so hi. I wrote here last month about the creepy guy on the bus who asked me if I had anyone waiting at home for me. Honestly, writing that out made me feel a lot better about the whole thing. So here, have another story. For some reason, I attract creepers, so there might actually be a good few of these stories still to come. Trigger warning for harassment, bullying, pushing for suicide. Don't really know how to put that. Also, a lot of swearing and emotional abuse, to be honest. So, set the scene. I'm 17 years old, maybe older, definitely under 20 at least. And on dating sites, because why not? I meet a guy, Dave, who seems nice enough, and we get to talking. Get on okay, start chatting on Skype and stuff like that. All is fine. We flirt a lot, and end up doing various adult activities via Skype for a good few months, until we decide to meet up. This is where the let's not meet crap begins. This is so long because of my sheer hatred for this guy. Pretty sure half of this post is profanities. Also, needed quite a few words to get across how much of a dick he was. So I go and meet up with Dave, and we go straight to his house, which I know, it was a bad idea. But whatever. I was also on my period, and at the time, didn't use tampons. I'm sorry, but it's relevant. So, had a pad on, couldn't see it or anything, but if you touched my butt, I guess you'd be able to feel it. I think you see where this is going. Anyway, get to his place, chill for a bit. Nothing sexual happens because it's Shark Week. Not that he knows this yet. And then we start kissing. He squeezes my ass, then sort of jumps back and asks me why I'm wearing a nappy. I explain everything to him and he starts making jokes about it, which irritates me, but not enough to stop making out for a while longer, until I feel him squeeze my butt again and laughs to himself. I pull away, stop all of it, and an awkward bit of time later, he walks me to the bus stop. It was dark, Halloween, and there was a drunk guy there who said we looked like a cute couple. I almost puked in my mouth, to be honest. I get home and sort myself out Shark Week wise, get into bed, text him good night, and hardly talk to him for a while cause he replies with jokes about nappies and babies. For Americans, by the way, nappies are what we Brits call diapers. That should have been the end of it, right? It was not. We go. A while barely talking. I can't remember any specifics from the time except we try and get back and touch via Skype, and he almost immediately makes things sexual after I explicitly had told him to not do that if he wanted a second chance, so I blocked his ass. He messages me on Facebook chatting shit up about how he's sorry, he has ADHD, undiagnosed by the way, but he relates strongly to it, or some bullshit. Absolute idiot. We go back and forth a bit cause I hate being disrespected, and he gets angry easily, or did back then, and I enjoy arguing because I'm a piece of shit. Again, ends up in me telling him to fuck off, him refusing, and me blocking him again. I also block him on the dating site we meet on as well as any other site I ever see him on. A year or so goes by. I get a message and think I recognize the picture, but I am not sure. So I reply anyway to be polite. It's him. He apologizes. And I argue with him again, telling him I really truly never want to hear from him again, and block him. Again, he goes on to make several more accounts on that site to talk to me. Same goes for Facebook. I also run into him Well, he messaged me on Plenty of Fish and OkCupid. We argue a lot on OkCupid, to be honest. It was getting creepy and awkward and weird, and I got super pissed off. I'd grown some balls and learned some big words by this point, so had a right go at him. As per usual, the chat ended up with me basically telling him to piss off and that he is blocked, and then blocking him. Things go quiet again, and then, after going to the cinema with my sister to see Batman vs. Superman, he messages me on WhatsApp. I instantly start having a panic attack, having to use my inhaler, etc., where this guy triggers me so damn badly now. I hate his guts for making me feel that way, and I still feel that way when I see his pictures on dating sites. Fuck him. Anyway, it gets to the point where I'm still telling him to bugger off. I block him on WhatsApp pretty quick, and he resorts to texting and calling. Most of the time, texts are him telling me to pick up the phone with the odd, "You are worthless and kill yourself, and the world would be a better place without you, you psycho bitch," thrown in. Charming, really. Definitely winning back over. Bear in mind, it's been at least 2 years at this point. He's harassed me on and off for 2 goddamn years. Anyway, again, I excuse myself from my sister. We're in McDonald's at this point. It's a weekend and quite quiet in the car park, and I step outside into the almost empty car lot. I start screaming down the phone. I don't remember what I said. I didn't even think about my words when I was saying them. I just know I told him I'd report him for harassment and shit if he didn't fuck the hell off. I had to go outside 3 more times to just scream down the phone at him. At one point, I literally was just screaming, no words, just pure pent-up anger at this dick for ruining what was meant to be a great night with my baby sister. This is already getting long, so I'll sort of taper off here, but basically I blocked his number from texts and calls. He still managed to get voicemails heard though, the knob, and never heard from him again. I wish. Got messages from him several more times, both on the original app we met on and Plenty of Fish, but tended to block him right away after that. So Dave, the stalker guy, who I will not hesitate to report to the police next time, let's never fucking meet again. This happened in 2011. I had just gotten out of a rough relationship a few months prior to this happening. My friends encouraged me to try dating again, so I caved and made a profile on the website, Plenty of Fish. I was surprised with how many messages I'd received the first few hours. Most were just people saying hi or asking to hook up. I wasn't looking for a hookup, so I ignored those messages. After about a week, a guy roughly an hour away from me messages me. He was cute, so I messaged him back. The conversation was pretty casual at first. He asked if I'd like to go for a coffee sometime. Not thinking anything of it, I said sure. This is where it started to get weird. He started to get pushy and asked if we could grab a coffee. I told him I didn't have my own car, so I'd have to borrow my mom's car to meet up with him. He offered to come pick me up, but I wasn't comfortable with the idea. The next message made my blood run cold. It read, "I'm sure your hometown isn't that big. If I knocked on a few doors, someone would be able to tell me where you lived." Are you fucking crazy? I'm sorry, but that's kinda fucking creepy, I replied. This just pissed him off. He messaged me multiple times after this, then said, "You know, I have a gun. I could shoot you and make you disappear. No one would look for you. You're nothing but a dirty slut. I could kill you. I'll throw you down a well and no one will ever fucking find you. I was really scared at this point, so I asked him to please leave me alone. He replied with the following: I know your hometown. It's not that big of a town. I will find you. At this point, I had had enough and I blocked him. I reported his account to Plenty of Fish and deleted my own. I was really on edge the next few weeks after that. I was afraid he was actually going to come look for me. So, to the creepy guy who threatened to kill me on Plenty of Fish, let's not ever meet. I was in my second year of community college when this whole thing started, and was enjoying a little bit of new freedom from my parents, who were strict homeschooling evangelicals. I had just gotten out of a relationship and was looking to meet someone new, but wasn't too thrilled with the immature and rowdy guys I mostly came into contact with at school. I wanted someone a bit more mature. I had heard about online dating and decided to give it a try. I was young and naive, and while I understood the dangers of talking to people online, I didn't think anything bad would happen to me. It was a free dating site, and there were millions of users on it, so I figured I might find someone that way. One of the first people to message me was a man who I'll call Dave, who was 10 years older than me, but he looked cute in his photo. He seemed nice and sincere from the message he sent me, so I decided I wanted to talk to him. He said he was an EMT and had his own house. He seemed like he had had his life together, which I liked. We seemed to get along very well, and we talked via the site's instant messenger for a few days. Then we moved to texting. I was becoming curious if he had any more pictures of himself, as he had only one photo online, so I asked him, and he sent me a picture without his face of what he said was his abs, but wouldn't send any more of his face. This should have been a red flag, but being 18 and having come from a somewhat sheltered homeschool family, I didn't think anything of it. A few weeks passed of casual chatting, and he started to become more and more insistent on meeting me. I told my mom about it, and she said I couldn't go unless her and Dad came along to meet him for the first time to make sure he was okay, because you never know about people these days. I was super annoyed and embarrassed, so I would have had to have dragged my parents along on a date, but I obliged, and Dave agreed to meet us at a local Italian restaurant for dinner. When the day came, we were going to meet him. We arrived at the restaurant and got a table. I had gotten a text from Dave saying he was on his way, so we just ordered drinks and waited for him to arrive before ordering our meals. Time ticked on and on and on. I told my parents that if I didn't like him, I would order a salad, and that would be the cue to get out of there as soon as possible. Finally, after over an hour of waiting, he showed up. My heart sank. I barely recognized him from the photo he had online. He was at least 100 pounds heavier, and his face looked a bit more weathered. It was obvious he had been deceptive about his looks, as he definitely did not have a six-pack, nor was he good-looking. He greeted us, sweaty and flustered because he was late, but gave my dad a strong handshake and was very friendly to my parents, which they liked. Needless to say, however, I ordered a salad. When the waiter came back, my parents basically paid no mind to my cue to speed up the dinner, as they seemed to enjoy talking to him. The night was going okay, but I really wanted to get out of there as soon as we could. After 3 really awkward hours, we said goodnight to him and went home. I immediately texted him afterwards and told him that while I liked him as a person, I wasn't interested in a relationship with him. He seemed sad and really wanted a chance, so he suggested that we remain friends and hang out sometimes. Reluctantly, I agreed, and my parents let me go with him because he seemed okay. So we started meeting him places. We would go to the mall or movies, things like that. Then he started meeting me at my school to hang out with me during my downtime. However, I started to feel kind of weird about it. Wasn't he supposed to be an EMT? When did he have time to work? It made me uneasy that he was coming to see me nearly every day. I mentioned the situation to my mom. It raised a red flag to her, and she advised I stopped hanging out with him. I informed him I didn't want to be friends anymore, as I felt I was leading him on and I wasn't interested. He seemed okay over the phone, and I thought it would end there. Wrong. He started texting me and calling me non-stop. He would leave like 20 or 30 text messages a day, begging me to hang out with him again. He would call and call, seeming to get more angry in each voicemail he left me. When I ignored those, he would send me emails or message me on Plenty of Fish. I told him to leave me alone, just in case ignoring him wasn't enough of a hint. He wouldn't. He was beginning to scare me. He told me how he had friends in the police department and Interpol, and that he knew where I lived. He threatened to come to my school or come to my house, and claimed he knew where I was at all times. I was terrified of this. I would sometimes see a strange black car driving slowly by, and I would hide and keep the blinds shut when I was home alone. To this day, I'm not sure if it was him or if it was a confidence. I began to drive my mom's car to school, as he knew what my car looked like. My mom had kept her car in the garage all the time, so there was no way he knew that car. I also began to park in a different area at school, so it was less likely he would find me and follow me home. I eventually got a new number, so the text messages and calls stopped. They didn't stop him from emailing me and instant messaging me from new accounts that he had made. Even though I had blocked his old ones, I basically had to watch my back and live in fear of this man for about 6 months. It finally stopped after that. About a year or so after all of this transpired, I googled his name. I thought, is this creepy? I wonder if he has a record. Well, it turns out he had been arrested and charged with child pornography recently, and had been thrown in jail after violating his probation by trying to get a job working with children at an amusement park. I read some comments on some of the articles about how he had stalked and threatened other women too. Turns out he was never an EMT, by the way. I am so glad he is behind bars, where he belongs. So, perverted scum of the earth, child porn addict stalker, let's not meet ever again. Back in 2015, I had a Plenty of Fish profile. Huge waste of time in the end. And one day, I received a message from a guy, 29-year-old female here, inviting me to Netflix and chill. I recognized the guy as the boyfriend of one of my classmates from beauty school, which I finished in 2011. I hadn't been in touch with this girl in a while, so I had no idea if they were still together or what, but between him not being my type and me having known her and knowing they had at least one child together, I declined the offer and thought nothing of it after that. Fast forward to last week, I went to see another classmate to have my own hair done. At some point, she mentions this other classmate, bringing up a story from the news that has recently resurfaced as trials begin, of a local man who shot and killed a woman and her and his subsequent infant daughter to hide the affair from his wife. I was in shock because I didn't recognize it was him when he messaged me on Plenty of Fish. He was slim, and I remember when cops made the arrest in 2017, he was about 70 pounds heavier, and I did not recognize him as my classmate's significant other. When my friend was telling me this, it didn't even sink in right away, but after a while it hit me, and that could have been me.